Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Omnifactory. Since the last episode, I have been moving some more processes over from downstairs. You might notice some different changes over here. We've added socks, ASOCs, the crystal chips, carbon fibers. There's a few more machines here like the Quantum Eyes, Eyes of Ender. I think that's new as well. So yeah, just taking a peek down here, it looks pretty empty. There's still a few things left to move. In fact, all of this can come down. It's just basically full drawers that I haven't moved yet. More or less the last thing I have to move, or the last two, is these qubit CPUs and nano CPUs. That's just 3 machines, and then these 4 circuit boards. These are, I think, going to go in processing arrays. Yeah, we're more or less finished with everything here, except for the microverse projectors, which I think we'll get to quite soon. And there's also some new additions in this room as well. I added our implosion compressor, 2 multi-smelters. This one is for on-demand crafts, so this has the interface with all the patterns in it. And this one on the left here is for the conduit binder. Before I was using EV furnaces there, which was nowhere near fast enough, so this one here just spits out conduit binder. And finally this vacuum freezer is for superconducting wire. So it doesn't get used very often, but it's there for passive in that. And then I think these 4 blast furnaces were here before. Obviously there's still a lot of tidying up to do and building to finish off. But today I'd like to continue with some more progression. So we were working on the tier 7 microminer to passive this recipe here. The vast majority of it is done. The warp engines are finished now. So that leaves the field generators, which is an assembly line recipe. The Ender energy manipulator, which is another fusion crafting recipe. I did add draconic cores, this recipe here for draconic cores somewhere on this wall. There it is there, at the bottom. So we have those, we just have to make the wyvern cores, which are another fusion one. But everything here we already passively produce, so it's just a matter of setting that fusion crafter up. And I'm not sure if you maybe spotted it if you were paying close enough attention, but this whole system here for this soulbinder and powered spawner setup here for Z-Logic controllers was 1 block off. It was sitting on these blocks here. And I noticed while I was watching back my last video, and it really annoyed me. Somehow I didn't notice it before in game. So I fixed that. So yeah, there's 2 starts we can make to this episode. We can either do the fusion crafts, or we can start on the field generator. This thing here with the assembly line. And I think I'd like to start here. I think it's going to be quite challenging to set this up, but we have to do it one way or the other, so let's just tackle it straight on. So this is a nested craft with a few other assembly line recipes in it as well, like this neural processing unit. And of course all of these things we're going to have to passive, so I think we should start with the neural processing, or we're going to need emitters as well. Okay, we'll come back to that. Let's start with the neural processing. Let's do it one step at a time. So just a quick reminder on our assembly line room. This is the setup that I had originally planned out. I don't think I'm going to change it. Maybe I'll squeeze in another assembly line in here. As it should fit, it'll leave 1 block gap, and that'll allow us to get more assembly lines in this room. So yeah, for now the on-demand crafts are still down there. I'm going to move those eventually, but I want to get all the passive systems in first. And I think it's going to be easier if we build out a whole lot of these assembly lines rather than doing them one by one. I'm going to start off by finishing all these multi-blocks, and then we'll start to set the inputs and outputs. So I've ordered up a whole bunch of components here for the assembly line. I'm trying to decide what the best way to build these is. We can either use the copy and paste tool, which works decent, although it doesn't. I don't think I'll copy everything. We can also use this array mode from effortless building. I've used this a couple of times, and this allows you to basically mass place blocks. Okay, let's try out this array mode thing. So we want input buses or input buses on all of these slots up to the end, which is going to be an output bus. So what we can do, I think, is set. Well, there's going to be 8 blocks in between, well 7 blocks in between, and the 8th one is going to be the next block. So we want array mode, offset is going to be positive X, since this direction is positive X. Count is going to be 3, this is how many it's going to place. And we want offset of 8. I just tried 7, but it was 1 too short, so I think it's going to be 8. Y, we want it on the same Y level, and we want it on the same Z axis as well. So now when we place input buses, yes, there we go. Is that in line? It is. Cool. So now we can just do this for all the input buses. Oh wait, that's not input buses. I'm still waiting on some stuff crafting. There's like a backlog of... Actually, why are you stuck? our PAs look like they're broken somewhere. Okay, we're in business. It looks like I, for some reason, put EV assembling machines in here. So I switched them out for ZPM. Let's get back to our assembly line assembling. So next up is the machine casings. These go here. Oh, I love this effortless building. Okay, so I got the first 5 built here. I still have to do the other side, but we'll get to that as we need them. And the first one we want to passive is this neural processing unit. This takes 4 inputs, all of which we now have. I just added the Enderium wire to our fluid solidifier wall. It also does take 1 fluid, which is the sterilized growth medium. It does take at least ZPM, although we're going to run the... I've got UV input hatches, energy input hatches on all of these. I think there's actually one above UV, isn't there? Yeah, there's max, which we can... Can we make these? We can make these. These are really easy. So maybe we'll do that once we get creative RF, but I'll keep them at UV for now since they're passive. They don't need to be blazing fast. So I know that I've got like input buses on all of these things, but input buses are basically free anyway, and it's a lot easier just setting up all the inputs and using only the ones you need, rather than trying to like configure them all individually and just use array mode. So we're going to use a bunch of glass cable with interfaces for the inputs. And then we'll also need the fluids as well. So we can rotate that down. And I'll put the fluid hatches along the front here as well. And I think for the ME power, or the ME cable, we're going to run it through the center on the floor. And as for power, since the power input hatches are up here, I think we'll run it, along this block. And we'll connect it up right here. Yeah, this works out quite well, and then we can put a CEF above each one, and that'll hide the conduit even as well. There, something like that, so that's power taken care of, and then we need interfaces for each of the items. So we need a fluid interface for the growth medium, and then just regular interfaces for the items. So it was 1x Enderium wire. Let's see if I can remember this. Wetware boards, wetware circuits, and what was the final item again? Stem cells. So that's all the inputs in, and we also have to do the output as well. So I guess we can keep running this ME conduit, or this glass cable along for the output, and then just put an interface on the end as well. Or actually, maybe we want these, since they're passive processes, maybe we want like a drawer on the output with a storage bus. I think that's going to be better actually. I wish these outputs you could put on the front so that we could, maybe like on the top there, but I don't think that's feasible. I don't think it'll form the multi-block. Yeah, we just have to hook this ME connection up somehow. Okay, I found a connection point up here. This just goes like straight up, and it connects to that wire over there. And then this way we can hide it with conduit facades and run it all through the center and distribute it to each assembly line. Oh wait, it's actually started already. We are going to need some way of turning this off though, since we don't have infinite stem cells or wetware boards yet, or circuits for that matter. So I think the easiest way to do that is to level emit it. What is the cleanest way to level emit this, I wonder? I mean, our only option is to level emit the controller, so we're going to have to run a cable up the front, unfortunately. Although, I guess we can put facades on this. I wonder, can we level emit through this block, just to keep the controller visible? So if we put a controller on the bottom, and then a level emit right here, does that stop it? Okay, it does, nice. And we want to stop it when we have less than 2000 wetware circuits. I don't know what the numbers exactly will be. We'll have to tune it later on. But yeah, this should all balance itself out once we get all of the processes up and we've run a few more microminer missions to get more dragon eggs and so on. But yeah, let's also set up the output drawer, and yeah, that's neural processing units done. Next up is going to be these emitters. I think we'll do the emitters next. So these take a few more steps. EV emitters we have to make, HV emitters we have to make. Quantum circuits we have, electron foil, I think we have that, and covered cable, we don't have any of these, as well as the frames, so there's a few more inputs to set up for this as well. But at least now we have like a concept of how this is going to work for each of these assembly lines. And in fact, what I could do is set a storage monitor here to show what it's producing. I think that could look quite cool. Yeah. And then we just have to conduit facade all the cables, which I'm going to do at the end. There's going to be a lot of cleanup at the end of this series, just putting facades in. I want to try and keep on top of it and not leave it all till the end though. But yeah, let's move on and tackle these emitters. So I've taken the time, looked through all the recipes and pinned all the things we need. Let's start off with the 3 rods. So chrome, platinum and osmium. There's chrome rods, osmium rods, and it looks like we already have platinum rods. So that's those off the list. Next we need the covered cables, and I think for these I'm just going to set up separate assembling machines in our GregTech room. This is actually filling up fairly fast as well, so how fast are these? 7.5 seconds at ULV, so yeah, they don't need to be particularly fast at all. And so I think I'm actually just going to add a 3rd layer to this as well. So each assembling machine is going to need both a conveyor and a pump. Conveyor and pump on each side. With them all set on import. So now they all have fluids, they all need, what is it, circuit 24 I think? Yeah, and then just their wire. I'm also adding the gold and the tungsten wire here. And then the aluminium we already had, so we can set the inputs on all of those assembling machines now. Alright, so there's gold, tungsten, aluminium. Oops, I forgot yttrium barium cuprate cable, let me add that as well. So that's the 4 cables we need finished. Let's move on to these emitters, which used the cable, and we also need some other things as well. So we'll start off with the IV emitter, I guess. So this is the tungsten cable, the osmium rods, eyes of ender, and some circuits. And set the recipe in our crafters. This gives us our IV emitters, IV emitters. That's that one done. Next up is EV emitters. I think we're already making EV emitters, aren't we? Maybe not actually. We'll have to add those. And this is our EV emitters. We'll set the drawer for this. That's another one down. Nice. We're going through this quite fast actually. So electrum foil. We've got all this. We need HSSG frames. So that'll take another assembler, I guess. And then the rest we have. Let's check if we have electrum foil. I don't know if we have that. Oh no, we do. Okay. So we're just missing HSSG frames from this LUV emitter recipe. Oh wait, we missed the HV emitter. But we have the chrome rods and the gold cable now, so. There's the HV emitter. I think that is the last of the emitters in the crafting tables anyways. So now we should just be missing the HSSG frames. Alright, there's our HSSG frames set up. I just have to add the rods and plates to our fluid solidifiers. And with all the components now passived for the LUV emitter, let's now add this to our assembly line. So this one takes 9 input items and 1 fluid. And the order of the inputs doesn't really matter, but we've got EV emitter, IV emitter, HV emitter, tier 4 circuits, frames, the yttrium cable, and 3 sets of electrum foil. And done. This should be running now. No, because it doesn't have power. Okay. Now it's running. Awesome. So this will give us our LUV emitters. Yep. And do we want to stop this? Do we want to level limit this? Is there anything here that isn't infinitely renewable? I guess not. I think we can let this run because all of these items we have like fluid solidified if we go all the way down the tree. Even down to the processors. Yeah, let's just keep this on. This might turn out to be a mistake and we might end up using all of our circuits. Like, if we look at our circuit count, we're good for tier 1 and 2s. Tier 3s are a little bit slow, but that just might be filling buffers. Same with the tier 4 and 5s. But tiers 1 to 5 anyway are free. It's just the wetwares that we don't have because of the wetware boards. And this doesn't take any wetware, so I think I'm just going to let this run. And we'll let this fill the drawer. You know what, these assembly line setups are actually a bit easier than I thought they were going to be. I don't want to speak too soon, but yeah, it's once you get the basic pattern down, it's not really too bad. Now that we have the LUV emitters and the neural processing units, we can now make our field generators. We have HSSG frames now and plates. This is just tier 5 and 6 circuits. I think we'll need to add fine osmium wire, and there's also these quantum stars which we'll need to add as well. And I think for these, since they're 96 seconds HV, I'm going to put these in processing arrays. And this slot on the end seems as good a spot as any, so I'll set up this for these gravistars, or what they called, quantum stars. Alright, that's us all set up for the quantum stars. I'm just waiting on some more machines crafting for this. There's the regular wire and the fine wire. So I think I've rounded up all of the inputs here. We have 4 osmium wire and 8 more inputs makes 12. Time to put them all in the interfaces. I already set up the fluid interface as well. Yeah, that's 2 osmium wire, 3 osmium wire, 4. Alright, we're running. We are now making LUV field generators. Obviously these are super expensive, so we're going to want to level limit these as well. And I think we'll just level limit these for circuits, the tier 6s, the wetwares. Although, is there any reason to keep neural processing units since we're already... Yeah, I guess we'll need them for the navigators. I was going to say, just since we're level limiting these neural processing units, and since this takes the input, we can just rely on this shutting off, but we need to buffer those as well, so we'll also control, specifically control how many of these we have. And we'll set the storage bus for this, as well as the storage monitor. Alright, so I just have it level limited for 2000 wetware circuits. And I noticed also we're like really low on wetwares, so we have to do something about this pretty soon. To fix that, we're going to manually see if we can just send a bunch of tier 7s. Because we still have like a lot of the on-demand crafts to make up the difference of what we are not passive in yet. So if we were to just order like 100, let's just see what our bottlenecks are. Our core seems to be kept up now that we added those insulators. All the DML stuff seems to be okay. This energy core stabilizer, we still have to set that up in fusion crafting. But we have enough draconic cores, draconium's no problem. We have to set up wyvern core processing. We have all the thrusters. Let's see what else. The emitters haven't quite filled their buffer yet, for the HV especially. The osmium wire we're going to have to upgrade the drawer on that. Oh, I can't pin from the screen. I'll have to increase the buffer on nano circuits and of course wetwares as well. Let's see what else. All of this can just be done on demand. We have enough draconium heavy plating since that's passive now. And these warp engines we have, it's just that we don't have the things to make the dislocators since we're missing the dragon eggs, which is this thing here down here. So yeah, well, we can easily increase the buffer on the fine osmium wire, that's no problem. Quantum circuits though, why are we so few quantums? That's nano, that's micro, I think these are quantums? Yeah. It looks like we're just too slow in this, what is this? Is this ZPM? ZPM assembler? We may have to move all these circuits to processing arrays. I'm actually not too sure. It might just be filling buffers though. But why are we out of wetwares? Is this not... I mean, we have plenty of boards. It's probably this redstone upgrade. There, so that started again. I'm not sure why I had it on that sort of setting. I'll have to tweak that a bit more, but this will give us more wetware boards. And I think next, I'm just going to take the time and set up these fusion crafts, since it's more of basically more of the same. It's just converting some of these setups over to this one here with the conduits and the auto inputs. So all 3 of these fusion setups are now set up for the auto crafting, and we're producing wyvern cores and the ender energy manipulators here. I have them more or less exactly the same setup with the steel chest and then the conveyor. And then all of them have item filters. I just have to put in all the facades again. And as for the outputs of these, I was originally putting them straight into this interface. However, I've switched that out with a drawer, with a storage bus, just so that it doesn't infinitely fill our drives. I would like it in our drawer instead. And maybe we'll have to limit these, because I noticed actually we're out of quantum circuits. Yeah, we have 0. I think all of those actually are going into our emitters though. Yeah, I'm sure they're all going into the EV emitters, so I might decrease the limit on those emitters. Because I went to launch a bunch more microminers just to get some more eggs to get the ball rolling for the tier 7s, but yeah, I found myself out of tier 4s, so I think they're all going in to be used for this. But this buffer, to be honest, is nearly full, so I'll maybe wait until that happens and then just see what our usage is like. So yeah, I was trying to find a way to put the drawer on top here, but there's not really a clean way to do that. I was thinking like maybe have a drawer right here. That would look quite cool, but that means running wire in between here, and I want to keep the space between the injectors free. I want to like be able to see this middle pedestal. So instead I just hid the drawer underneath back there. And I received a comment last video as well. Thank you for that, by the way. Reminding me that the higher tier the injector, the faster it crafts. So eventually we will upgrade all of these probably to chaotic tier. Although for that we need dragon eggs, which again we don't like. It keeps coming back to this dragon egg, and like the bottom line is we have to launch microminers for these. Optimally we would launch tier 8s, but obviously that requires the layer of the Chaos Guardian data, which is the tier 7, and the tier 7 requires a few eggs to craft. So we'll have to launch a couple at a time and limit our passive processes until we get enough built up that we can keep sending tier 7 and 8s for dragon eggs. I think that's something I'll balance out in between episodes. Oh wait, I actually just I realized that I was crafting the wrong item here. Well, not the wrong item. We need this anyway. It's just I said we were going to make the core stabilizer. This recipe here, I didn't actually add that in. So I'll have to add that. Give me a second. Okay, that's the fusion crafting setup. It's more or less exactly the same setup with the slight change that I have added an ender chest. Because we don't have very easy access to like this side wall to hide the conduit for the top injectors. So to remedy that, I considered a bunch of options, but I think the ender chest is just probably the easiest one. So I've added an ender chest down here for these empowered diamantine crystal blocks. That just gets imported via item conduit from this interface, and that is connected to this top area over here, which inputs via conduit into all of these injectors. Since I didn't have an ME connection over here, otherwise I would have just added another interface on top. That just seems like a clean solution to get the items to the top there. I might consider changing these to ender chest as well, but there's no real reason to change it since this works and it's hidden anyway. So yeah, this is giving us our energy core stabilizers. I should also put the storage bus on here. Let's now take a stock of how far off we are from the tier 7. We can't be that far off by now. So we have the laser arrays on passive, draconium plates, microminer guidance systems. We just added these today. So the stabilizers, the manipulators, and the field gens, and the warp engine. So actually we have the tier 7 on passive. We just have to do the final step, which is the assembly and the ultimate crafting table. So I think let's finish off today by setting that up. And there is one final thing I don't want to forget about, which is to actually send them, we need the microverse projector, obviously. But we also need these input items as like a fuel cost. So for the layer of the Chaos Guardian data, we need gemstone sensors on passive, which doesn't look too bad, to be honest. That's EV sensors. I think we already have EV sensors. And then carbide platings. Yeah, these aren't going to be too bad. Dragon layer data, we set that up with DML, and then dilithium we have as well. So how many input items is this? Is this more than 9? Do we have to use packaged auto? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 input items? So no. We can get away with just doing a similar setup to this. So how is it we had this before again? We'll first of all clear this recipe. I'll clean out my inventory a bit, and then we have to gather each of the input items. Okay, so it's draconium heavy plating, guidance systems and laser arrays, stabilizers and manipulators, and also LUV field gens, and then is that it? No, warp engines. And I think I'm only going to buffer the exact amount for this recipe, at least for the super expensive things like the field gen and the warp engine, just so we don't have like a full stack sitting in this buffer. And then we can input this recipe. Oh, maybe not. We're missing 2 warp engines. I wonder if we can craft those. Oh, we're missing dragon eggs. Always missing dragon eggs. You know what? I know where we'll get some dragon eggs. I bet there's some sitting in the buffer of this stem cell producer. Oh, maybe not. Maybe there's some in the buffer of the fusion crafter. I just need some so that I can send a tier 6 to get the ball rolling. Is there some in this interface? No. We are completely out of dragon eggs. Okay, well I'm going to temporarily stop the production of these emitters since we have like nearly 2,000. We need to build up some tier 4s to send a tier 6 microminer. This only gives us 32, but it's enough to get the rest of the things to send a tier 7. And then we can send a few tier 8s to get like 4 stacks at a time. Yeah, we're just missing 4 quantum circuits, which I think this was the only consumer of. No, there's still something that's consuming these things because they're not sitting in the drawer. What else uses tier 4 circuits that we have passive? Oh, I bet it's our assembly line. I just set this up as well. I already forgot about that. This emitter. Yeah, tier 4 circuits here. I'm gonna have to disconnect this, and I'll put this in the middle to remind me. So now we should be building on quantums. No, there's still something sniping it. What is it? Aha, found it. It's this. It's the EV sensors. We have to turn these off as well. Alright, how are we looking now? No, still something sniping it? Okay, no, it looks like it was just filling an interface or something like that. So now we can send a few tier 6s for eggs. There we go, the first mission just finished, and the fact that it took 15 eggs was for the fusion craft, which is actually what we want. We want this thing to make dislocators so that we can make the warp engines. So actually we do need to keep this on. This will make us advanced dislocators, which gives us the warp engines, and that we can set the recipe with. So any minute now we should see 2 advanced dislocators, and we need 4 total. There we go, we got our advanced dislocators, and now I had some trouble earlier when we had stock of these with like this recipe not filling up. It seems to have fixed itself now. Maybe I just had to reset or manually import this, because I think I had imported this recipe from JEI. Yeah, now it's crafting the warp engines. That means we can set this recipe for the tier 7. Wow, that was quick. Now it's making us the tier 7s. Awesome. So I think I want to actually put a downgrade on this, because we also have to have tier 8s as well, and a lot of these components also take the tier 8s. So that means we can send our tier 7 mission, and this will give us dragon layer data. And then can we make a tier 8 yet? Just pass, or manually I mean. We can. And this will give us more eggs, which will continue the cycle. Alright, that was a massive goal now achieved, now that we have the tier 7 microminer. Next up is to automate the tier 8, however that's going to be obviously be for next time. Taking a quick look at this, a lot of this stuff we already have, and it's actually not going to be too bad. But yeah, if you have any comments or suggestions, as usual, let me know in the comments. This is going to do it for today, and once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for some more Omnifactory.